hiding out from the hurricane today. Can't do a whole lot of work, so I thought I'd talk about the work I've been doing. Doing a little insulating project here, and I want to share with you some details that I think they're worth it. They're worth knowing. First and most important thing that everybody should understand is that different brand names don't have a big difference in performance. Now, I've already got the ceiling in. As you can see, this is FRP, fiberglass reinforced panel. It comes in 4-foot wide sheets by 8 feet, so it doesn't quite make a full width ceiling. What I'm going to do is add a board here. After the wall comes up, there'll be a trim board, something like Cove molding, but it's going to sit flat to the ceiling and cover this Ripley edge. I have made it somewhat flat and given it a little bit of a curve here by running 1x2s 4 feet apart at the outside edge of the van. So the edge of the board is screwed in every 12 inches along, the FRP is screwed in every 12 inches to that board. The board is screwed in at every roll cage, and in the middle, we're only screwed into the roll cages. We can't get every 12 inches along because I don't want to lose any ceiling height here. As you can see, ceiling height is important to me in these vans, and 3/4 of an inch there would make a difference. Now, of course, run your wires before installing insulation and ceiling when you can. It's not a huge ordeal to run some later and add things, but it's definitely easier first. These are my solar wires going up to the roof for panels. I've got electrical coming over here to the battery, feeding back over here. This is where the air conditioner is going to plug in. There'll be an outlet up here. From that outlet, I'm going to add on more electricity coming down here, so I'll have an outlet up here, more outlets down there. And, well, you can see, if I slide this out of the way a little bit, you can see I've already got one outlet started there, right behind the driver's seat. Just a quick point about wiring inside the walls of a van. Romex is stiff copper wire and not really the best thing. Stranded wire by the foot is more expensive than extension cords just because of the law of supply and demand. So what I like to do is cut up my old extension cords and use those and buy myself new ones. On top of my FRP, I've got Havelock wool. It's pinched a little bit tight right here on top of the boards at both ends, but it's got plenty of room in between. That is the Havelock wool. What I like about it for the ceiling is it's thin. It comes in 4-foot long pieces, so it fits nice. The width is 15 inches, so it doesn't fit real nice, but I scrunch it up a little bit, and it gives me some additional thickness. With the Havelock wool or anything in 4-foot pieces that you're going to squeeze tight like that, it takes 48 linear feet. 4 feet times, what is it, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, yeah, 12. Times 12 panels between the ribs here. I do not insulate under the ribs because, as I said, I need that height. Any insulation there is going to be a problem for me. Just carpet is going to be enough to bring that ceiling into rubbing my hair all the time. So then after the ceiling, coming down from there, I don't want to use Havelock wool down here because it's not backed. It will more or less bunch down in here. Even if we glue it to the wall, eventually that glue is going to give out and it's going to end up as a saggy mess down here in the bottom. So I'm going to go to the store and get some Owens Corning or some similar brand of regular household insulation. R13 is made for 3.5-inch thick walls. So the difference in insulation, and this remains true across all brands and types, it's the cavity that it fills. The Havelock van insulation that I used on the ceiling is 2 inches thick. It's R7. The craft-backed insulation I used in the walls is 3.5 inches thick. That's R13. You can also get R19, which is thicker yet for 2x6 walls. But we don't have any 5-inch deep cavities to insulate here. So the best we could do with that is crush it into this 2-inch cavity, 2.5-inch cavity, and turn it into about an R10 anyhow. Which the R13 that I've stuck in here, it's not R13 anymore once I've pushed into a cavity that's only 2.5 inches thick. The whole idea is to make the air inside the cavity stagnant so that it does not flow. If the air doesn't flow, the heat doesn't transfer nearly as fast. So since we're dealing with a given cavity here to fill, any insulation is pretty much going to do the same thing. Now here's where it matters. Some insulations are better at displacing water or repelling water to begin with. Pretty much all insulations are going to be somewhat hydrophobic or repelling of moisture. Denim would not be my choice for a van insulation just because of that purpose, the water. Never mind the fire retardant abilities. And I'm sure they treat it when they turn the denim fibers into insulation. I'm sure they treat it with some kind of chemicals. By condensing the insulation a little bit here, we do lose some R value. It's not R13. It is a little bit better sound barrier than it would be fully fluffed up at 3.5 inches thick. Florida Van Man is made possible by support from viewers like you. Please join our Patreon membership package for just 30 cents a day. Membership has benefits uniquely catered to each member. VIP membership for $25 a month has additional benefits, including roadside assistance and discounts to our events and parts. Now that's going to be insulation 3.5 inches thick, 15 inches wide to go in a 2x4 wall, and it's going to have the paper backing on it, and that paper backing is going to help it stand up when it gets squeezed in here between these two surfaces. Now, that 3.5 inch thick insulation will be squeezed just a little bit, whereas this Havelock wool wouldn't be squeezed at all. That's really thin. The Havelock wool is also very good for putting on the top of your headliner. You can glue that to almost everything, the entire area of the headliner. If you get it in the sides here, it does get a little bit tough to get this clipped in, but you can work it in. You see, I've got it here all the way. Well, not going to be able to see it in there, but I stopped just before these lines. When you've got the headliner down, you'll see how the metal rib is right there. I don't have any insulation between the headliner and the rib, but right after the rib, my insulation starts. So that's super insulated. Tinting the windshield, we have a video on that. That's also going to help a lot with the heat load. And of course, side blinders helps. So this video is just a bunch of random ideas thrown at you about camper van building. I've got a couple more for you. 10-inch mattresses are too tall in any van. 3-inch, 4-inch toppers just about do the job. Put some nice plushy carpet underneath it, and then that's pretty comfortable to lay on. Bed frame, keep it lightweight. 2x4s is ridiculous. 2x3s is okay. 1x3s is okay if you, what do we call that? Cribbing, I think, so they can't twist. Now this odd-shaped bed here, odd-shaped mattress to fit a queen size on here, so I made a cardboard cutout of exactly where I want the wood to lay. There we go, just like that. So the wood isn't on top of my plastic at all. I don't want that to be pushed down too hard. Now I'll use this same cardboard cutout later and extend the mattress a little bit farther maybe when I'm cutting it. And also plywood. The local stores will make that first cut for free. So I had to make that cut, gets everything much more manageable, so I'm not trying to handle an 8-foot sheet of plywood across the table saw. 1x3 here may not be strong enough at the front edge. You can see I put a 2x4 at the back edge to make that stronger. After the plywood goes on, it'll get a 1x4 cedar face, something like that. So it hides the edge of the plywood, hides the lumber there, rough cut cedar, a little bit decorative. By screwing that in with a lot of screws from the back side, it'll be just about as strong as a 2x4 up here. I guess we call that an engineered board. Might glue it, probably not necessary to glue it, but also it won't have any visible fasteners because all the screws will come in from the back side. Important tip I see a lot of people forget: before you start putting paneling in, paint that pillar back there at the back door. Paint it, clean it up nice and white, paint it, because once the paneling is in, you really don't have a chance to clean that up. And it looks good as new now. It's going to be kind of hard to cover. The Havelock van insulation unfortunately comes in 100 square feet per box, and we need 100 linear feet. So we end up with about a box and a half. There's 20 bats in a box, and I use 26.5 bats here to get all the way up into the headliner. Now what's left over could be used in the doors and such like. Spray foam in the doors takes a lot of that sound vibration out. Kill mat or some other lizard skin, I think, is something similar that will take a lot of the vibration out of that door. But down inside here, you really want to fill that with spray foam. So we want to make sure we don't get it all the way down into the bottom crack of the door. We want to leave that very bottom edge open for a rain channel so water can get out. So you can see here, my bottom edge is not filled up with foam.